My estranged mother and sister tried to hijack my wedding, but my grandparents had other plans and have always been the black sheep of the family. Not because I was rebellious or difficult, but because I simply wasn't my older sister, Bethany. Bethany was the golden child, the academic superstar, the effortlessly beautiful one, the one who could do no wrong in our mother's eyes. I was just me. Average grades, a little awkward, and always in Bethany's shadow. My father, bless his soul, tried his best to balance things out, but he passed away when I was 16, leaving me alone with my mother and Bethany, who only seemed to amplify the favoritism. After my father died, the dynamic in our house shifted even more drastically. My mother, consumed by her grief and her unwavering belief in Bethany's potential, seemed to forget I even existed sometimes. Bethany, meanwhile, thrived on the attention. She excelled in everything, went to a prestigious university on a full scholarship, and landed a high-flying job straight out of college. I, on the other hand, struggled to find my footing. I went to a local community college, worked odd jobs, and basically just tried to stay out of my mother and sister's way. Our relationship became strained, a collection of clipped conversations and thinly veiled criticisms from their end, and quiet resentment from mine. I eventually moved several states away for a fresh start, cutting contact almost entirely. It was a painful decision, but one I felt was necessary for my own mental well-being. The only people I kept in touch with were my paternal grandparents, who had always shown me unconditional love and support, and who understood the difficult family dynamic better than anyone. They were my anchors, my chosen family. Years passed, and I built a wonderful life for myself. I found a job I loved, made amazing friends, and, eventually, met the most incredible man, Daniel. Daniel was everything I could have ever wanted in a partner: kind, supportive, hilarious, and completely devoted. He saw me, truly saw me, in a way my birth family never had. We fell deeply in love, and after 2 wonderful years, he proposed. I was over the moon, ecstatic to finally have a chance at the family I'd always longed for. The wedding planning began in earnest. Daniel and I decided on a small, intimate ceremony with just our closest friends and family. I initially debated inviting my mother and Bethany. A part of me, the naive part that still yearned for their approval, wanted them there. But the logical part, the part that remembered years of emotional neglect and passive aggression, knew it would only lead to stress and drama. After much deliberation, and with Daniel's gentle encouragement, I decided against it. This was our day, and I wanted it to be filled with joy, not tension. I did, however, tell my grandparents. They were thrilled for me and Daniel and immediately offered to help with anything we needed. They were planning to fly out to attend, and their presence alone felt like enough family for me. My grandparents, however, in their infinite wisdom and desire to see family reconcile, decided to inform my mother and Bethany of the upcoming wedding. They genuinely believed that perhaps the news would soften their hearts, make them realize what they were missing, and maybe even prompt a genuine apology and an attempt at reconciliation. I was initially upset when I found out, fearing the worst, but my grandmother assured me they had simply mentioned it in passing, emphasizing it would be a small affair. I tried not to dwell on it, focusing instead on the exciting plans for our big day. Our wedding day arrived, a beautiful sunny afternoon at a charming botanical garden. Everything was perfect. The flowers, the music, the vows Daniel and I had written for each other. It was all a dream come true. I was getting ready in a small private room with my bridesmaids, my heart brimming with happiness, when there was a sudden knock on the door. One of my bridesmaids opened it, and standing there, uninvited and unwelcome, were my mother and Bethany. My heart sank. My stomach twisted into knots. The perfect bubble of joy I had been living in for the past few hours burst instantly. My mother, dressed in a far too flashy gown, looked me up and down with a critical eye. Bethany, in a dress that was arguably more appropriate for a guest than the mother of the bride, wore a smirk that I knew all too well. "Well, look who decided to finally get married," my mother said, her voice dripping with a faux sweetness that I knew masked a deeper judgment. "And you didn't even bother to invite your own family. How very typical of you." I felt a surge of anger, but I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Mother, Bethany, what are you doing here? You weren't invited." Bethany stepped forward, her smirk widening. "Oh, come on, little sister. You really thought we wouldn't show up? Despite your attempts to exclude us, we are still your family. We wouldn't miss your big day for anything, even if it is, well, a bit modest." She gestured around the lovely, but admittedly not lavish, dressing room with a disdainful flick of her wrist. My bridesmaids, bless their protective hearts, immediately sensed the tension and stepped in. "Excuse me," one of them said, "but the bride is getting ready. You need to leave." My mother scoffed. "And who are you to tell us what to do? We are her mother and sister. We have every right to be here." Just then, Daniel's voice, calm and firm, cut through the escalating drama. "No, you don't." He had evidently heard the commotion and come to investigate. He walked into the room, his eyes instantly finding mine, a look of reassurance in them. He then turned to my mother and Bethany. "This is our wedding day. We asked for privacy. Please respect that and leave." My mother's face hardened. "You really think you can talk to us like that, young man? We are her family. We are here to support her, even if she's too ungrateful to invite us." "Support her?" Daniel replied, his voice still calm, but with an edge of steel I rarely heard. "By crashing her private moments and insulting her choices? I don't think so. You are causing a scene, and you are upsetting her. I'm asking you one last time to leave, or I will have security escort you out." The threat of security seemed to finally register with them. My mother huffed, and Bethany's smirk faltered slightly. But before they could retort, my grandparents appeared at the doorway. My grandfather, a man of quiet strength, looked at my mother and Bethany with an expression of profound disappointment. My grandmother, usually so gentle, had a stern set to her jaw. "Eleanor, Bethany," my grandfather said, his voice quiet but commanding, "what is the meaning of this? You are disrupting their wedding day." My mother immediately turned to them, her tone shifting from indignant to pleading. "Father, Mother, we were just trying to be here for our family. She didn't even invite us. It's an insult." My grandmother shook her head. "An insult? Eleanor, you and Bethany have done nothing but hurt and neglect my granddaughter for years. You have shown her no love, no support, only criticism and favoritism. This is not about supporting her. This is about making yourselves the center of attention, as always." Bethany piped up, "But Grandma, we are family. We have a right to be here." "A right you forfeited long ago with your actions," my grandmother stated, her voice unwavering. "Family is not just a bloodline, Bethany. It is about love, respect, and mutual support. Things you have consistently withheld from my granddaughter. Now, I suggest you both leave before you cause any more irreparable damage." My mother looked stunned, as if she couldn't comprehend being spoken to in such a manner by her own parents. Bethany's face flushed with a mixture of anger and humiliation. They both tried to argue, to justify their presence, but my grandparents simply stood their ground, their expressions resolute. Finally, my grandfather stepped forward, his gaze firm. "Eleanor, Bethany, if you truly care about her happiness, you will leave now and allow her to have the beautiful wedding she deserves, free from your negativity. If you choose to stay and continue the charade, know that you will not only be escorted out, but you will also permanently sever any remaining ties with us, your parents. Is that what you truly want?" The weight of his words hung in the air. My mother and Bethany exchanged a look, and I could see the calculation in their eyes. Losing my grandparents' support, both emotional and potentially financial, was clearly a line they weren't willing to cross. With one last glare at me, my mother turned on her heel, Bethany following close behind, and they both stalked out of the room, muttering under their breath. A wave of relief washed over me so profound it almost brought me to my knees. Daniel immediately came to my side, wrapping me in a comforting embrace. My bridesmaids gathered around, offering words of support and hugs. My grandparents came over, my grandmother pulling me into a tight hug, tears in her eyes. "I am so sorry, my dear," she whispered, "but you will not let them ruin your day. This is your day." And she was right. After a few minutes to compose myself, to let the adrenaline subside, I looked at Daniel, and a genuine smile finally returned to my face. "Let's get married," I said, my voice filled with renewed determination. The rest of the wedding was absolutely magical. Daniel and I exchanged our vows under a floral arch, surrounded by the people who truly loved and supported us. My grandparents stood by us, beaming with pride, their presence a silent testament to true family. We danced, we laughed, we celebrated, and not once did I think of my mother or Bethany. They had tried to overshadow my happiness, but they had failed. In the weeks that followed, I received a few attempts at contact from my mother and Bethany, half-hearted apologies, vague attempts to clear the air, but I politely, yet firmly, declined. My grandparents, true to their word, also maintained a distance from my mother, making it clear that their actions on my wedding day were unacceptable. They continued to be a constant source of love and support for Daniel and me, becoming even more integrated into our lives. My relationship with my birth family remains estranged. And honestly, I'm okay with that. It took me a long time to realize that blood relation doesn't automatically equate to family. Family is built on love, respect, and unwavering support. And I finally have that in Daniel, in his wonderful family, in my incredible friends, and most importantly, in my amazing grandparents. They showed me that day, with their strength and their love, what true family really means. They didn't just save my wedding, they saved my peace of mind and solidified my belief in the beautiful family I was creating. I often look back at that day, not with sadness about the drama, but with immense gratitude for the people who stood up for me and protected my happiness. It was a chaotic start to a new chapter, but ultimately, it was a chapter filled with more love and validation than I had ever known.